Humor is just so important. We all need to laugh more.
Why? Welcome back to our series on depression. This is the second class. First class, we learned that we all go through sadness. That's obvious and it's natural. We all go through sadness. But if that sadness lingers, it does lead to the depression and can lead to depression. And in that depression, we get very rigid in our thinking, very narrow. And we need to find a way to get out of that. And humor is a way to get out of it. Humor and laughing, which, that's the whole premise of you just have to laugh. So that's what this is about. This class is not just about the humor, but if we get to the humor and we get to the punchline and we start laughing, something happens to us. And that's what this class is about. Let's get back to Dr. Bill, and Bill's going to tell us why humor is so important.
I think it resets perspective. When there's a lot of sad things in life, well, there's still some things to laugh at. I do research on suicide. And one of the really difficult things about somebody getting in that frame of mind, that may be the best thing to do to escape the world in some kind of way or kill oneself, is there can be an incredible narrowing of experience.
Yeah.
Perspective generally is awfully useful. And humor does it in all kinds of ways.
It's interesting. There was a woman that I interviewed, and she said, I wanted to kill myself. Matter of fact, I had cut my wrist, and I think I was dying.
Yeah.
And she said, and I was dying, and I saw Jesus. And I said to myself, what am I seeing Jesus for? I'm Jewish. I shouldn't be seeing Jesus. She said, I started laughing, and I came out of it.
What a great joke.
And I've been better ever since. Another guy told me that he locked the keys, he shut the garage door, started the car, sat in his car, to kill himself.
Yeah.
Woke up the next morning and realized, I'm not only not dead, I'm out of gas.
There's the punchline.
Right.
If you can get to the punchline.
But they saw that.
Yes, that's right. If you can get to the punchline, then something has happened.
Yeah.
Because if there's a whole bunch of bad, and you can't experience anything that's
Right.
remotely kind of good, you've lost all balance. There's bad, but, and you had a punchline.
Yeah.
A punchline is that, but, there's not all bad.
It's not all bad.
And some
people
things
can't
can
get
be
to that.
enjoyable.
Yes, many things can be enjoyable, even if you're sad or going through depression, if you get to that punchline. Because when you get to that punchline and you think about things differently, your perspective changes. You're out of that narrow thinking, that rigid thinking when that happens. It is possible. The next story I'm about to tell you is with Dr. Chris Celio. I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to show you. Chris is going to tell the story. If his name sounds familiar, he's the doctor that I introduced you in an earlier series that works with suicide and depression patients. Chris, by the way, got permission to tell this story from her before he ever shared it on camera, so you know that. Chris is going to explain what happened to a woman who tried to kill herself 100 times when she got to that punchline.
I had been doing counseling with this one client with her for about 2 years, and she had a really serious history of suicide, a lot of trauma when she was young. She was a widow in her 30s, and now she's in her 40s, and just can't find a lasting reason to live. So in her mind, and I bet it probably is true, she says she has attempted suicide 100 times, and she's been dead 4 times, and then they would bring her back. And she was going over this history and not wanting to live. And I knew her. I'd known her for about, as I said, for about 1.5 years. And I said, you're quite a perfectionist, right? And she said, yeah. And I said, isn't this, all this failing, because she called it failing, isn't all this failing at suicide bothering you? And she just stood there for a moment, and then she just cracked up laughing, and she's like, I'm not trying anymore. I don't want to be a failure. And that's the thought that comes in her mind when she thinks about it again. I don't want to be a failure. And for her, it works.
Isn't that something? I talked to Chris recently, and he told me that woman has never tried to kill herself again because she got to that punchline that Dr. Geis talked about earlier. When you get to that punchline, something happens. Here's one more for you. I can't say the name of the woman. I know her, but she was going through a horrible divorce. Her husband had been cheating on her for years, and she found out. She was not only sad and went to the kind of depression, she was in bed. She couldn't get out. She would occasionally talk to a therapist, and her mom would come over and talk to her. Very bad depression she was going through. Her husband came over to get the remainder of his clothes. And she answered the door. She let him in. He got his clothes. Right before he walked out the door, he turned around and goes, I know this divorce has been hard on you. It's been kind of hard on me too. He said it that flippantly. And then he said, do you think after this whole thing's over, we can still have sex? Yes, he said that. And she looked at him and said, you know, I think we can, but not with each other. And bam! Slammed the door in his face. As soon as she did that and thought about it, she started laughing. After she did that, she went and called her mom and told her mom the story, and she started laughing. After that, she called her therapist and called her friends, and she started laughing. And you know what? The sadness, the depression, she got out of bed, and she went on with her life. When you get to that punchline in your brain, as Dr. Geis said, something happens. And if we go back to an earlier episode, Jim Fizzell, who's going to be coming up in a little bit, you're going to actually see Jim in a little bit in a further class here. And that is, when you laugh at yourself, you heal yourself. That's part of the punchline, because it gives you a different perspective. In the next class coming up, we're going to show how this continues with Kim. It's unbelievable what she has been through, what she had been through with the death of children and death of family members. And also my great pal and probably the funniest man on the planet, Sinbad, where they both talked about openly about killing themselves and how it's humor and laughter and that punchline stopped them to get out of it. See you at the next class.